This segment of the news is brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.
Welcome back. As expected, a brief House sitting this morning that's due to the fact that legislators headed to the Church of God Cathedral for their annual parliamentary church service. The idea is to seek divine intervention before pushing ahead with the country's business this new year. Preaching a message of unity was Christian Council President Bishop Delton Fernander, who leaned on Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 12, that speaks to a threefold cord: the government, the opposition, and the church that's not being easily broken.
When we become a part of the strands that make up the cord that is the strength of our Bahamas, the things can be better, the things can be held together. When we stop operating as single units and start seeing ourselves intertwined to make this place better than we met it.
Bishop Fernander reminded parliamentarians that the time for politics is over. Now is the time, he said, to come together and govern a nation and move the people forward.
No matter what color you wear, actually, no matter what church you go to, amen, we must remember that we are all Bahamians. Amen. We must remember that we must all bleed the colors of our flag. Amen. At the end of the day, we want to leave the Bahamas better than we met it. Amen. No party, I believe, has a monopoly on good ideas. Amen. Neither does any one person or group, whether the church or civic organization, hold a monopoly on all the answers for our nation. Amen. It's when we realize that God orders our step. I feel like preaching now. Yes. When we realize that the hand of God guides us.
Let the past, Bishop Fernander said, be the past.
It's all said and done. What will be your legacy? That we argued all year, that we got on each other's nerve, that we have to get something done, that we've got to move the mark to a place where people look back at this time and say, these were the best sons and daughters that the Bahamas could put forward, and they did a wonderful job with God's grace. The future of this country is in our hands.
Before being bused to church, there were first readings of several pieces of legislation, including the replacement of the Traveler's Currency Bill, the Electricity Amendment Bill, and the Electricity Rate Reduction Bond Bill. The business of the House resumes next Wednesday, January 24th. Now, the Grand Bahama Port Authority has brought on British IT consultant Alex Cameron to create what's being called a digital paradise, a plan that's expected to catapult Grand Bahama into the modern era.
What we have here is a business portal, and the intention is for anyone, local or foreign, if they want to get involved in a business, would come to this portal, and at the very top you would see various line items here. The first one is start a business. The next one is permit requests, report violations, certificate of good standing, bond letter requests, and key business resources. Now those functions, these are key business functions that every business will probably encounter while doing business in Grand Bahama. Again, the objective of the portal is to create a world-class one-stop shop to manage all Grand Bahama Port Authority and government approvals with specific guidelines, and where matters need to be referred to central government, a clearly defined timeline should be established in line with best industry standards.
Upping Grand Bahama's game also calls for creating a one-stop shop on that island aimed at improving the ease of doing business for both locals and foreigners, according to Grand Bahama Port Authority President Ian Roll.
And we have a 90-day plan to roll out a number of these initiatives. And let me give you an example of one. In Freeport we have, in Nassau too, you have this graphical information system or data points. Data regarding streets and longitude, latitude for various different businesses. However, a number of agencies have not shared their data with the general public. One of the initiatives that Alex is working on is the release of all of this GIS data to allow developers to actually create applications that will make life easier for locals and foreigners alike who visit Freeport. And I think this initiative should be adopted by the rest of the Bahamas again. For instance, if you want an Uber-type situation to exist, they need the data. So we will be releasing all of this data publicly in open source.
Mr. Roll was addressing members of the Rotary Club of Southeast Nassau's weekly meeting at East Villa. Now, not much information coming from Press Secretary Anthony Newbold on Ragged Island's hurricane recovery process, which many agree has been slow. Mr. Newbold only shared with us that exactly what will happen is still being discussed. Ragged Island MP Chester Cooper earlier this week called out the government for little that's been happening on that island, decrying the fact that little building supplies had been provided by the National Emergency Management Agency. Our final stories are up next.
This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.